Well, starting, I guess, best thing would be to give you kind of an idea of the dynamic of a group home. If you've never been there, I don't know if they changed since then. I know that there have been a lot of good changes in the foster care system since, but when I was in it, it was basically just a house that had like a caretaker, and there was multiple children in there. Like all of us, it was supposed to be like an interim place for placement. So I was there. There was, like I said, a bunch of other kids there. I was only there for, it wasn't too long before I got sent out to another house. It was, like I said, it was very weird. It was very awkward because there's no privacy. There's no room. You're just there with a bunch of other people who have no idea. They're just as clueless as you. Some of them younger, some of them older. All have just been kind of thrown into this house. What I got to take from like my house, I left basically most of my stuff there. I had like a trash bag of just junk of some toys, a couple clothes, nothing really substantial. And that was all I had to my name pretty much. And that followed me through the entirety, the next couple of years. Because after that, I got sent to another home. I got sent to an actual placement home. That's kind of, it was very weird for me the first time I got sent to a home, because the concept of, oh, here's your new family was just, I couldn't even fathom it. It's like, so I'm supposed to just live here with these people? But the first home, I remember that they were semi-welcoming, but it was just a lack of kind of emotional attachment, I guess. It was more just like a, hey, nice to meet you, and that's kind of it. I would try to fit in, make myself welcome, and be, this awesome young kid, and it would be just a situation of, there's your corner, go sit in it. I was just an inconvenience, and one that was easily sent away, which happened often, because they were like, oh, don't want to deal with this, gone. And packed up my trash bag, off I went. Well, after that first home, like I started my degrees of just orneriness. Like I said, little things, it's all it takes for, whenever you're a young child and you're not welcome in general, to just annoy a parent, I'm sure. That's what I would do. I'd go out of my way to just either not really care or just be a pain in the smallest way, just because I could. And the homes would keep me anywhere from like a month. I think the longest I stayed at one of those houses was like 6-7 months or something. The house of the White Sox, the dog White Sox, and the Watsons I stayed at the longest, made up for most of my time between the 4 and 10. Like I said, they were a great home. It immediately opened up to me. It was the weirdest thing ever, because I'd gone from, after home to home to home of just, feeling like trash, because that's all I really amounted to, really. They were welcoming. They were happy to see me. They were loving on me. They were just amazing people, and it was just really weird. It caught me off guard. It really did. Because I didn't just feel like an inconvenience. They actually seemed like they were happy for me legitimately. So I was 8 years old, and the thing I remember most distinctly is that, like, that night, Mr. Watson came upstairs. He gave me a Bible storybook, which I still have to this day. And it's like the Bible and all, everything about it. But it's easy for a kid to understand, it's great. All those stories, and it's fantastic. And he just read me a book out of this, or read me a story. And it was the first time I'd ever had like a father figure, and that's what he was talking about. He was talking to me about this heavenly Father, this God who like loves me and all this stuff. And it was a foreign concept to me, because they were the first family that like I wasn't a complete pain in the butt to them. I naturally gave them a little run at it every now and then, but I was going back to school. They were being really nice. And it just started having this great dynamic. It was fantastic until they got like another little girl. Things changed after that. She had one blue eye, one green eye. And it really just seemed so rapid. And then all of a sudden, after all this talk of love, all of a sudden I had my trash bag again, and I was back on the road. I had no idea what happened. Just one day, I guess you gotta go. And the next house I went to, of all the houses I went to, was by far the worst house. They shouldn't have been parents, and I hope to the Lord that they've lost their license thusly and they're just gone. They're just terrible people. I was there with a couple other foster kids, one older girl, like a young black child he couldn't have been more than when I started, maybe 4 or 5. And then another little girl. I'm thinking that it was the little boy's sister, is what I'm thinking. I didn't really put 2 and 2 together because she was very quiet. She would never leave the room. But they were just terrible people. They treated us like dirt. If anybody does this, I'm sure it was them, but like just using the foster children for that money that the government gives them, or probably a tax write-off. They were terrible people. I remember for fun one evening, the husband drove like a dump truck. We went out, he gave us hammers, and we chipped like the cement off the back of his truck. That was our fun for the evening. Probably the worst time of my life, my young childhood, and I went back to just closing myself off, reading books, ignoring everybody. I felt bad for the other foster children there, but at that point, I just didn't care anymore. I figured at that point, well, this is my life now. It's not going to get any better. So I just figured, just fight through it, survive for another day. Fortunately, I wasn't there too long. I don't even know how long. Days blended together. Then I came to the Cruzies. And that was a very interesting day, because that was one of the few days I was happy to be able to pack my junk in a trash bag and leave. Wasn't excited for the next house either, but I figured, well, it can't be worse than the last one. Came to the Cruzies. First thing I remember seeing is Sam and Mumsy, or Robin, all happy as all get out to see me. And I'm like, I've seen this before, As unfair as it may seem, she was happy and excited and all lovey, but, the Watsons were the exact same way. So I wasn't exactly having it, as the kids these days say. So, she was loving and being all very happy. Oh, I'm so excited you're here. The Lord's brought you to us, all this stuff. I'm like, this Lord fella again, huh? Yeah, that sounds about right. I was very, very closed off, but she was fighting. She kept fighting, being very nice, showing me to my room, which that was another weird thing. I had my own room. I didn't know how to handle that. Like I was just being thrown in like a broom closet, basically. All of a sudden I got like my own space. It's a very foreign concept to me. And that night, after the whole day of niceties and like everyone getting to meet me, Mumsy's kind of explaining the rules of the house and all this stuff. Just the 411 of the Cruzy clan. And I straight up and asked her, and I'll never forget this, but I just asked her. I was like, well, she's like, oh, you got any questions? I was like, well, yeah, how long are you going to keep me? I was a straight shooter then. And what she told me was fantastic. She told me, this will be the last house you go to unless you go back to your real family. Which, on a list of just the right things to say at the right time, that was number one. It really kind of helped me accept this, being at this new house. All of a sudden, at first I didn't want to get out of my little shell, but all of a sudden they kicked me out of it and I loved it. And it was just amazing, looking back, especially like what I was and what I would have continued to be to what I am now, because of, I had something to fall back on. I had a loving family, to take care of me, and shoot, it made all the difference. Like they're my family by choice. They were with me throughout the whole, they built me up. They built me into the man I am today. And if it wasn't for them, their actions, how they handled me, everything that happened, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be who I am. Um, and regardless of what happens, like I know I can mess up, make mistakes, whereas the old me, a mistake was you're moving out, you're gone. Here, I can mess up, bad things happen, but I know I've got people that'll be there to encourage me, kick me in the butt if necessary, or pat me on the back, say, hey, you tried, let's try, go for it again or something. So very much it's, the old me was just, a product of the situation. He couldn't move forward. He's stuck in the present, but, now man of the future. Sometimes I do still struggle with self-worth is still kind of an issue just from childhood. I very much underestimate myself quite a bit and what I'm capable of, just because of the rejection I felt over the years. So it really sometimes a struggle. I have to sit down and just be like, you're better than this, or you can do this. You can't settle for that just because you think that you're not quite where you think you're at, and just help them, see what can come out of this, from a dirt bag that I was. But it just helps for these kids, especially if they've gone through similar situations to mine, to repair themselves and then to be able to move on to whatever plan they've got for themselves. So seeing kind of how I've gotten to go from where I started to now, it's there's obviously some plan in the works and has been put into work. The idea that, hey, opening your home to some strange kid can help him, give him a future, help him grow, help him be a person, is just great. So you can't really judge these kids solely on how they act. There's a couple just genuinely pain in the butts, but a lot of these kids are just hurting, because they need somebody to be in their corner with them, to just take the punches and just be like, it's okay, I still love you, to just be in their corner, because for me, I had no one in my corner. So getting these kids to realize that, hey, you're there for them. You're not good. You're going to be different. You're going to help them. You're going to give them this hope. They're not going to be readily accepting of it. They're not going to be ready to jump in your arms right away. Most of them won't. So it will be a battle. But you keep loving, you keep hanging on tight. They'll come around.